नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नाम्ने नमस्ते सारस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्णा हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Yes.
Krishna,
So,
Krishna.
remembers in our last session what we discussed? Anyone can summarize?
Arjun had asked Lord Krishna, how does a person in Krishna consciousness who has made sufficient progress in spiritual field, how does he speak, how does he walk, etc. And Lord Krishna says one who is neither happy in victory nor sad in defeat has a steady mind.
Right. Anything else? Someone would like to add something in this? कोई कुछ ऐड करना चाहेगा? So as rightly mentioned, Arjuna asked Lord Krishna, what are the symptoms of a person who is situated in divine consciousness or Krishna consciousness? So what all questions he asked? He asked 4 questions. First question he asked was, how does he speak? Second was, how does he sits, or how does he responds? How does he walk, and what are his general symptoms? So these were the 4 questions Arjuna asked. And next 2 verses of Bhagavad Gita, 55th verse, Lord Krishna gave the first answer. What are his general symptoms? So that symptoms Lord Krishna told, he is free from all varieties of sense desires. And these sense desires or desires for enjoying the sense comes from the mental concoction, from the mind. So he is free from all such desires, and Krishna is telling he finds the satisfaction in self alone. Means he is happy, he is satisfied in his constitutional position. And what is his constitutional position? He is the part and parcel of the Lord, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So he is satisfied in that position, and he is in that position, he is serving Supreme Lord Krishna. And that person is in pure transcendental consciousness. Next answer Krishna gave. How does he speak? So Krishna gave that answer in the next 2 verses, 56th verse and 57th verse. So what was the answer Krishna gave? He is not disturbed by Adi Bhautik, 3 kinds of kleshas, threefold miseries, Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, or Adhyatmic klesha. He is free from all these kleshas. He is not influenced or not disturbed by these kleshas. So here very important thing to notice is he is not disturbed or influenced. Krishna, I'll share Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has mentioned he is not disturbed. It does not mean that all these kleshas are not going to act upon that person. It will act, but he will not get here. One who is not disturbed in spite of threefold miseries. So Krishna is telling, important point to notice, even though these threefold miseries are acting upon such person, he will not get disturbed. Right? Next, he is telling, who is not elated when there is a happiness. He is not overjoyed, or he is not influenced by happiness also, and he is free from attachment, fear, vitaraga, bhaya. He is free from all these things, and his mind is intelligent. So this is answer he gave to second question. What was the second question? Second question was, how does he speaks? Kim bhasha? Kim prabhaseta? Means how does he speak? Now today we'll understand the third question, answer of third question, that is Kim asita? How does he sit? How does he sit? Or what exactly Arjuna is asking here is, how does he restrains his senses from sense enjoyment? How does he restrain himself from the sense enjoyment? This is what Arjuna is asking, and Krishna is going to answer this question from verse number 58. From verse number 58, he is going to answer. 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. So some 6 verses he is going to answer this question. So 2 questions he answered in 1 verse, 2 verse. But this third question is going to answer in 5, 6 verses. So this question is very, very important. Such a long answer it is. What is the question? How does he sit? Okay, so we'll start for today. This verse number 58. Yes. So all of you please join in chanting the shloka. Yada samharate chayam kurmo angani va sarvasaha
Kurmo anganiva sarvasvaha
indriyarthebhyas
indriyanindriyarthebhyas
tasya prajna pratishtha.
tasya prajna pratisthita.
Yes, anyone would like to chant the shloka?
जदस्तं हरति चायं कूर्मोऽङ्गनिव सर्वशः इन्द्रियार्थेभ्यस्तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Yes, someone else?
यदा संहर्ते चायं कुर्मोऽङ्गानिव सर्वसः इन्द्रियानिन्द्रियार्थेभ्यः तस्य प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
Wonderful. Yes, someone else would like to try?
I would like to try, Prabhuji.
Yes, please, Mati.
यदा संहर्ते कायं कर्मो नग्नाव सर्वश इंद्रियाद्रेभ्यः तस्य प्रजना प्रतिष्ठा.
Wonderful. Yes, someone else? Okay. So,
संहर्ते चायं कूर्मो सर्वशे इन्द्रियाणि इन्द्रियाभ्यस्य तं प्रज्ञा प्रतिष्ठिता.
someone else would like to try? Okay, so we'll read the translation. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws his limbs within the shell, is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. So, few statements Krishna is making here. First is, one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects. Just like for eyes, what is the sense object for eyes? Eyes is the senses. So what is the sense object for eye? Yes, anyone?
रूप रस गंध रूप.
Yes.
I
Rupa means form. We want to see some beautiful form. That is the sense object. some type of form we want to see. That is the sense object for eye. So next is our nose.
Yes.
Nose, what is the sense object? If someone else would like to answer. For nose,
Smell.
what is the sense object?
Smell.
Yes.
Smell.
For ear, sense object is to hear, and for tongue,
Listening.
sense object is taste. So
Hearing.
these are the different sense objects for different senses. So Krishna is telling one who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects. And here Krishna is giving analogy also, example also. Just like kurma. Kurma means tortoise. Just like a tortoise draws his limbs within the shell. When there is a danger, we see tortoise, when there is no need, he withdrew his senses, his limbs, his legs and arms within the shell, even his head itself. Right? And third thing Krishna is mentioning is to be understood as truly situated in knowledge. That person is truly situated in knowledge, who is able to withdraw his senses. That person is situated in true knowledge. How? That will read in the purport. We'll understand from the purport how he is situated in true knowledge. The test of a yogi, devotee, or self-realized soul is that he is able to control the senses according to his plan. Most people, however, are the servants of the senses and are thus directed by the dictation of the senses. That is the answer to the question as to how the yogi is situated. The senses are compared to venomous serpents. They want to act very loosely and without restriction. The yogi or the devotee must be very strong to control the serpent like a snake charmer. Serpents like a snake charmer. He never allows them to act independently. There are many injunctions in the revealed scriptures. Some of them are do's and don'ts. Some of them are do's. Unless one is able to follow the do's and the don'ts, restricting oneself from the sense enjoyment, it is not possible to be firmly fixed in Krishna consciousness. The best example set here is the tortoise. The tortoise can at any moment wind up his senses and exhibit them again at any time for particular purpose. Similarly, the senses of the Krishna conscious person are used only for some particular purpose in the service of the Lord and are withdrawn otherwise. Keeping the senses always engaged in the service of the Lord is the example set by the analogy of tortoise who keep the senses within. So here, very important thing to understand, a yogi, devotee and self-realized soul is always able to control his senses as he desires. And what does a devotee desire? A devotee desire what pleases to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Whatever pleases to Krishna, that is what devotee desires. And that devotee act as per the desire of the Lord. Just like Prabhupada, when he was going to US to give this message of Bhagavad Gita, he was praying to the Lord, "Oh Lord, I am like a puppet in your hand. You make me dance as you desire. I do not know, I do not have any capability to preach this message to these people who are completely absorbed in the sense enjoyment." We see in the Western countries who are very economically stable or well-to-do, there are a lot of opportunities for the sense of enjoyment. There are ample opportunities for sense enjoyment, and most of the people, they are completely absorbed in that enjoyment of the senses. So, for a person who is completely absorbed in the sense enjoyment, for him it is very difficult to understand the message of the Lord that we read in previous verses of Bhagavad Gita. Anyone remembers what was the verse? Previous verse, there was one verse Krishna mentioned in this chapter only. So in verse number 44, Krishna mentions, what is that verse? Bhogeshwarya prasaktanam teyapaharta chetasam. In the mind of those who are too attached to sense enjoyment and material opulence and who are bewildered by such things, the resolute determination of devotional service to the Supreme Lord does not take place. Resolute determination of devotional service means bhakti will not take place for a person who wants to enjoy sense enjoyment. That's why a devotee is always careful not indulge in sense enjoyment, because as soon as he indulges in sense enjoyments, what will happen? It will take him away from Krishna. Those sense enjoyment will take him away from Krishna. And these sense enjoyment, these senses are compared to venomous serpent, a poisonous serpent. A poisonous serpent, how does he kill or attacks his prey? Same way senses indulge for the sense enjoyment, sense objects. And how does that happens? When a sense or eye or nose sees the sense object, recognize the sense object, first it develops the hope. What kind of hope? Hope to enjoy. Then from hope comes he want to chase. He want to somehow get that sense enjoyment. Just like serpent. If you see the serpent snake, when snake, first thing is he will find a prey. He will find his food, a prey, or suppose a mouse. He will look and he will find that prey, mouse. Second, he will develop a hope that I must get this prey, I must kill him to enjoy. Third stage is he will wait and chase that prey to enjoy or to gratify his senses. Fourth is he will catch hold of that prey. And fifth is he will indulge in enjoyment of that senses. Same way our senses. First is they will search for sense object. Where is that sense object? Oh, there it is. Then we'll develop a hope. I want to enjoy it. Further, we'll try to, in our mind, we'll work upon this thing. How to get that? How I can get that sense object? How I can get? All those calculations will go in our mind. Then once we have got that sense object, we'll indulge in that sense object. Right? So these senses are very loose in nature. One has to be very careful. And how it is possible? When we are strong and determined. When we are strong. How we are strong? We have to be strong mentally. And how that mental strength will come? When one has spiritual strength. Mind can be easily controlled by the higher self. Just like these senses can be controlled by mind. and mind can be controlled by soul itself. And soul is what? Spirit in nature, spiritual in nature. So when we have that spiritual strength, tapas shakti, we can easily control our mind and senses. Now, how to get this tapas shakti? To get the tapas shakti, there are certain do's and there are certain don'ts in the scriptures. Just like a building has caught fire. How that building has caught fire? By short circuit. That building has caught fire. So that firefighter comes to extinguish that fire, and he is extinguishing that fire with the help of water. He is able to extinguish, but the source of fire ignition, where it happened, that fire got triggered, that electric board, he cannot use the same water to extinguish that fire. He has to follow certain rules to extinguish the fire of which has triggered from the electric board. He has to use another method. He cannot use that same water to extinguish that fire. So firefighter follows certain do's and don'ts to safeguard themselves. Same way, to control these senses, one follows do's and don'ts. And those do's and don'ts are revealed in the scriptures. Just like, what is the do's? Do whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, what pleases the Lord. Chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra, serving the Lord, rendering service unto Him, reading the scriptures, serving the devotees. All these things pleases to the Lord. So one should follow that. Another is don't. One should not do certain things. What is that? Which is unfavorable for our Krishna consciousness. So what are the don'ts? Anyone would like to share don'ts?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandar
Yes,
Pranam.
yes, don'ts.
The do nots that are the four principles of ISKCON. The four principles of ISKCON, that is no gambling, no alcohol, no illicit sex, and no meat eating, regulatory lifestyle. That are the primary do nots.
Yes.
And
Apart from that, yes.
then I learned in this is sense gratification, or giving up senses, or offering senses to Krishna services. That is the new thing which I've learned today.
Yes. So sense enjoyment is don'ts. We should not indulge in sense enjoyment. Now, one may question then, this senses has been given by the Lord. We have not created these senses. This senses has been given by the Lord Himself. And these sense objects are also given by the Lord. We have not created. So what is wrong in indulging the sense enjoyment? That question may come up in our mind. What is wrong in that? Both the things has been created by the Lord. So we should indulge in that. What is wrong in that? That we have to understand here. So here, Krishna has given very nice example. Just like tortoise draws his limbs within the shell. So what tortoise does? A tortoise, when there is a danger, he withdrew his limbs within the shell. Same way, a devotee or a yogi or a spiritualist, he employs his senses, he engages his senses in the service of the Lord. He makes those senses as an instrument to make advancement in Krishna consciousness and to make advancement spiritually, to make a spiritual advancement. He uses those senses as an instrument rather than to get implicated by those senses. Just like nuclear energy. Nuclear energy has both positive and negative aspects. Positive is to create electricity, to create energy, which gives powers to the entire nation or such energy is created. Another is to create atomic bombs, which kills lakhs and thousands of people. That is the negative use. Same way, Rishikesha, Krishna's another name is Rishikesha. He is the master of the senses. He has given all these senses to us to engage in the service of the Lord. Just like, suppose an employee is working for an organization. That organization facilitates so many resources to the employee so that he can serve the organization in a better way. Suppose that organization facilitates a car or a vehicle for the employee so that that employee can comfortably reach to the office. He can comfortably drive, he can come on the time to the office. So various such resources an organization facilitates to the employee so that employee can use in the service of organization and make further advancement. Suppose that employees, rather than using for the service of organization, he exploit those resources for his enjoyment. He will get implicated. He will not be able to make progress in his organization. Same way, these senses are given by the Lord to all of us so that we can engage these senses in the service of the Lord to make spiritual advancement. Otherwise, these senses are so strong. We get implicated in this material world. We get stuck in this material world in the cycle of birth and death itself, where we will be suffering by those threefold miseries. So that's why these senses are given for us, just like hands are given to clean the temple of the Lord, to engage in the cleaning of the temple of the Lord. These eyes are given to have nice darshan of the Lord, to appreciate the beauty of the nature which has been created by the Lord. His nose is given to smell the prasadam of the Lord, to smell the flowers which has been offered to the Lord. His ears are given to hear about the glories of the Lord. And this mouth is given to chant the glories of the Lord and to eat Krishna prasadam. So all these senses are given for the pleasure of the Lord, to engage in the service of the Lord. And Amrish Maharaj used to engage all his senses in the service of the Lord. And he became such a dearest devotee of the Lord that Krishna employed his Sudarshan Chakra in the protection of Amrish Maharaj. Very beautiful pastime that is. So these senses are given to us to make spiritual advancement rather than getting implicated in this material world. Just like in a jail, prison, that prisoner is there. He is there so that he can come out of that jail, he can reform himself. And now suppose that prisoner, he is engaging in abominable activity. He becomes the dada there, goon, and create disturbance in the jail. He is even murdering someone, he is fighting, murdering, all such activity he is doing. So what will happen? He will get implicated. We'll read the next shloka. Vishya निवर्तन्ते निहारस्य देहिना रसवर्जं रसोऽपि यस्य param दृष्ट्वा निवर्तते. One of the important shloka of Bhagavad Gita, it is translation. The embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense object remains. But ceasing such engagements by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. Here, Krishna is mentioning again some statements. First statement is embodied soul or conditioned soul, means we all. We may be restricted from sense enjoyment. We may try to restrict ourselves from sense enjoyment. But the taste for the sense enjoyment will be there. Means we want to enjoy those sense objects. That taste will remain. Now next statement of Krishna is something very important. What he is telling? Ceasing such engagements. Such engagements means what? Ceasing sense enjoyment. How one can cease the sense enjoyment? That Krishna is answering by experiencing a higher taste. Now, suppose a person, he goes and he eat some food he is having or eating. He is eating some normal food. Now what happens? Somebody comes and informs him that party is going on there and you are also invited. So what he will do? He will immediately leave and he will join the party and he will enjoy for nice food there. Like it happens many times, right? We have some dish, some food is there, but suppose some more tasty food is there. Either we'll give up that low taste food or some ordinary food and we'll go and eat that tastier food which is made, that dish will eat. Or we'll do overeating. We'll eat more. Right? Same way Krishna is telling that one can lose that taste for the sense object by experiencing a higher taste. And one who experiences that higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. That is the symptom. Right? That is the symptom of that person. So, how to experience this higher taste? We'll read the purport. Unless one is transcendently situated, it is not possible to cease from sense enjoyment. The process of restriction from sense enjoyment by rules and regulation is something like restricting a diseased person from certain types of eatables. The patient, however, neither likes such restrictions nor loses his taste for eatables. Similarly, sense restriction by some spiritual process like Ashtanga Yoga in the matter of Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, etc. is recommended for less intelligent persons who have no better knowledge. But one who has tasted the beauty of the Supreme Lord Krishna in the course of his advancement in Krishna consciousness no longer has a taste for dead material things. Therefore, restrictions are there for the less intelligent neophytes in the spiritual advancement of life. But such restrictions are only good if one actually has a taste for Krishna consciousness. When one is actually Krishna conscious, he automatically loses his taste for pale things. Once there was very beautiful pastime in Sri Rangam, which is located in south. There is a Ranganath temple there. So Ramanujacharya, he was visiting that temple and he was having the darshan of the Lord. He saw one person who is very well-off person, good person, rich person, and he is not taking interest in darshan of the Lord. Rather than having darshan of the Lord, he was just behind a woman. He was having darshan of, means he was just seeing his, I think, wife. He was his wife. So he was seeing his wife, continuously staring, looking at wife. Continuously he was looking at his wife. So Ramanujacharya, he felt what kind of person he is. Is not able to give up just for 2 minutes. Is not able to give up seeing his wife. So he approaches, Ramanujacharya approaches that person and asks that person that why are you continuously looking at your wife only? So that person, he says that my wife's eyes are so beautiful that I cannot take off my eyes from her eyes. And I have never ever seen such eyes in this creation. So please don't disturb me. So Ramanujacharya, he replies, if I show you better eyes than these eyes, will you stop looking at your wife? He says, absolutely. So Ramanujacharya, he says, okay, you come in the evening. And he goes and he shows the Lord darshan to this person. And he is completely absorbed in seeing the Ranganatha darshan, the Supreme Lord darshan. He is completely absorbed seeing the eyes of the Lord, lotus petaled eyes of the Lord, so much so that he forgets everything. So same way, we can give up the taste of sense enjoyment, sense objects. Sense objects are basically what? These sense objects are temporary in nature, first thing, and these are made of matter. All sense objects, whatever you see, is made of matter. So when we give up these sense objects by developing attachment to something which is eternal, what is that? Krishna, Supreme Lord, who is eternal. When we develop enjoyment for that Supreme Lord by serving Him, that enjoyment is eternal enjoyment. That is the higher taste. But the process of Yama, Niyama, all this process of Ashtanga Yoga, what happens? One artificially tries to restrict the senses. And when one artificially tries to restrict those senses, whenever there is a sense object, it will bounce back like a spring. Suppose there is a spring, you compress this spring with a force. Once you leave that spring, it will bounce like anything. It will bounce back. Same way, when we try to suppress the sense enjoyment, we adopt artificial methods to stop sense enjoyment. So what happens when sense object is there? Will immediately lose the control, will not be able to control. There one in Srimad Bhagavatam, there was one Muni, I think Shabri Muni. Yes, Shabri Muni. His incident comes, the description of his incident. What happened? He went to various places, different places, to practice Ashtanga Yoga, to practice meditation, to avoid sense objects. He was not able to find such places. He went different places, but every time all the attempts were unsuccessful. So at the end he thought, let me go inside the water. There sense objects will not be there, and I can simply focus on my meditation. So what happened? When he started his meditation, he saw two fishes. They were enjoying each other. And by seeing the fishes, his mind got agitated and he left his meditation and went to the king. He went to the king for what purpose? He went there to ask his daughters. He was having 100 daughters and he married all 100 daughters. And later on he understand what a foolish thing I have done. I went different places to make spiritual advancement, to not get distracted. But in water also I got distracted and I end up with this 100 wives. So when we try to artificially restrict ourselves from sense enjoyment, it will not be possible, how much ever we may try. But when we engage these senses in the service of Rishikesha, Krishna will make spiritual advancement. And will no longer have taste for dead material things. Right? Further we'll read. Yatato hi api kaunteya purushasya vipischitaha indriyani pramathini haranti prashabham manaha. Translation: the senses are so strong and impetuous, O Arjuna, that they forcibly carry away the mind even of a man of discrimination who is endeavoring to control them. See, just now we heard the story of Shabri Muni. Same thing Krishna is mentioning here. These senses are so strong. In earlier purport, senses were compared to venomous serpent. And Krishna is also mentioning here, senses are so strong and impetuous. Impetus means it creates impulse for us to indulge in sense enjoyment. Further, Krishna is mentioning, O Arjuna, that they are forcibly carry away the mind. Senses even influence the mind. And whose mind? Mind even of a man of discrimination. Man of discrimination means a person who is trying to control his mind. Even such person can be carried away by sense enjoyment. He can be carried away. We'll read the purport. There are many learned sages, philosophers, transcendentalists who try to conquer the senses, but in spite of their endeavors, even the greatest of them sometimes fall victim to material sense enjoyment due to agitated mind. Even Vishwamitra, a great sage and a perfect yogi, was misled by Menaka into sex enjoyment. All the yogi was endeavoring for sense control with severe types of penance and yoga practice. And of course, there are so many similar instances in the history of the world. Therefore, it is very difficult to control the mind and the senses without being fully Krishna conscious. Without engaging the mind in Krishna, one cannot cease such material engagements. One practical example is given by Sri Yamunacharya, a great saint and devotee who says, since my mind has been engaged in the service of the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, I have been enjoying an ever new transcendental humor. Whenever I think of sex life with a woman, my face at once turns from it and I spit at the thought. Krishna consciousness is such a transcendently nice thing that automatically material enjoyment becomes distasteful. It is as if a hungry man has satisfied his hunger by a sufficient quantity of nutritious eatables. Maharaj Ambarish also conquered a great yogi, Durvasa Muni, simply because his mind was engaged in Krishna consciousness. So, very beautiful purport. Lot of things Prabhupada has mentioned in that purport, in this purport. So, first thing is the senses. Even the greatest of the sages in the past, philosophers, transcendentalists, yogi, muni, sadhus, they could not conquer or they fall victim to these sense objects. Mind get agitates. Just like example of Vishwamitra is given. Vishwamitra, he was trying to meditate. He was practicing Ashtanga yoga. But his meditation was blocked by Menaka. And there are so many such examples. Even though one may practice control senses by severe penances, tapasya, one will not be able to achieve success very easily. It is not very easy. So, what is the easiest process? That easiest process is Rishikesha Rishikena Seva Bhakti Uchate. When these senses are engaged, when the mind is the master of the senses, all senses, when this mind is engaged in the service of Krishna, so what happens? One can easily give up the taste for sense enjoyment. And how one can engage the mind in Krishna? By chanting this Hare Krishna mantra, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare. Chanting this mantra, one can engage his mind in Krishna. When one is absorbed in chanting, chanting means chanting and hearing, or hearing about Krishna, about the pastime Leelas of Krishna. When one engages his mind in Krishna conscious activities, his mind can be free from such thoughts of sense enjoyment. Because why mind has to be engaged in Krishna service? Krishna is telling in previous verse that sense desires arises from mental concoction. Sense desires arises from mental concoction. So it is very important to control over the mind. And that can happen by engaging the mind in Krishna service. One beautiful pastime of Haridas Thakur, who is also known as Namacharya. He was a Mohammedan he was practitioner of Islam. When he came in touch with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he came in touch with holy name of the Lord, this Hare Krishna mantra, he chanted Hare Krishna mantra every day, 20 hours a day. Almost some 2 lakh name of the Lord, 2 or some 3 lakh name of the Lord he chanted every day. 22 hours he used to chant the holy name of the Lord. So when one practice devotional service bhakti yoga, there is one repulsive force known as Maya. So this Maya Devi, her seva, her duty is to test the devotees or to take away the devotees from Krishna. So this Maya Devi creates lot of obstacles in the life of practitioner. So through her different energies, she employs all these obstacles in the life of the devotees or yogis. But in case of Haridas Thakur, nothing worked. None of the thing was working. So she herself went in front of Haridas Thakur. And she is very beautiful. She took a she is a woman, very beautiful woman. So she approached Haridas Thakur and asked him that please satisfy me. Tonight you should satisfy me. So Haridas Thakur, he being a devotee of the Lord, he is continuously chanting this Hare Krishna mantra. He says to this Maya Devi that okay, I will satisfy you, but let me complete my committed number of Hare Krishna mantra, committed number of this chanting. Let me complete that. You please wait, I will satisfy you. So he completed his Hare Krishna mantra, entire night got over. He completed his round. It came early morning. Then he asked, okay, now I am done with my chanting. She says, okay, I will call again tonight I will come and we shall enjoy. You should satisfy me. He said, okay. He again started his next day rounds. Again, in the night, he said the same thing. I will satisfy you. Please wait. Next morning came. Again, he told, my number of rounds is over. She said, okay, I'll come tonight again. She came again. And again, Haridas Thakur told the same thing. Please wait. Let me finish my rounds. So she waited. And when she was waiting, she also started chanting the Lord's name. So this Haridas Thakur is a devotee of the Lord. He is completely absorbed in the chanting of the holy name of the Lord. He could easily control his senses. Even though sense object is very easily available, he is no need to chase all these things, he no need to do, but he could easily control his mind by chanting and in fact that Maya Devi, who came in the form of a prostitute, she became the devotee. And when our mind is engaged in Krishna consciousness, we automatically develop renunciation, means distaste for the material things. Okay, we'll read the next shloka. Tani sarvani samyamya yukta asita mat paraha vasehi yasya indriyani tasya pragna pratishtita. So Krishna is telling here, one who restrains his senses and fixes his consciousness upon me is known as a man of a steady intelligence. So here Krishna is making little conclusion that one who restrains his senses and fix his consciousness upon me upon Krishna, become Krishna consciousness. That man is of steady intelligence. Pragna Pratishtha. So, what Arjuna was asking? A person, here is the question of Arjuna. 50, yeah. Sthita Pragnasya. Sthita Pragnasya Krishna, Arjuna is asking, and Krishna is telling that is the person who is Pratishtha, means who is situated in steady intelligence. We read the purport. That is the highest conception of yoga perfection is Krishna consciousness is clearly explained in this verse. And unless one is Krishna conscious, it is not possible at all. It is not at all possible to control the senses. As cited above, the great sage Durvasa Muni picked a quarrel with Maharaj Ambrisha, and Durvasa Muni unnecessarily became angry out of pride and therefore could not check his senses. On the other hand, the king, although not as powerful as a yogi, as the sage, but devotee of the Lord, silently tolerated all sages' injustice and thereby emerged victorious. The king was able to control his senses because of the following qualification as mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam. What it is mentioned? King Ambrisha fixed his mind on the lotus feet of the Lord Krishna, engaged in his words in describing the abode of the Lord, his hands in cleansing the temple of the Lord, his ears in hearing the pastime of the Lord, his eyes in seeing the form of the Lord, his body in touching the body of the devotees, his nostrils in smelling the flavor of the flowers offered to the lotus feet of the Lord, his tongue in tasting the tulsi leaves offered unto him, his legs in traveling to the holy place where his temple is situated, his head in offering the obeisances unto the Lord, and his desires in fulfilling the desire of the Lord. All these qualifications made him fit to become Matparaha, devotee of the Lord. Matparaha. So Ambrish Maharaj, he was what kind of devotee? Matparaha. What is Matpara? Here it is described. The word Matpara is most significant in this connection. How one can become a Matpara is described in the life of Maharaj Ambrisha. Srila Baldeva Vidyabhushan, a great scholar and the Acharya in the line of Matpara, remarks, Mat Bhakti Prabhavena Sarvendriyani Vijapurvikaha Savatma Sulabheti Bhava. Sulabha means very easy. The senses can be completely controlled only by the strength of devotional service to Krishna. Also, the example of fire is sometimes given. As the small flames within burn everything within the room, similarly, Lord Vishnu, situated in the heart of the yogi, burns all kinds of impurities. The Yoga Sutra also prescribed meditation on Vishnu, not meditation on the void. The so-called yogis who meditate on something which is not the Vishnu form simply waste their time in vain searching after some phantasmagoria. We have to be Krishna conscious, devoted to the personality of Godhead. This is the aim of real yoga. So here, nicely Prabhupada has explained that what is yoga. Yoga means completely absorbed our mind in Krishna, meditating upon. And what happens when we engage our mind in Krishna? Krishna, he comes and situates himself in our heart, and he burns up all the desires of sense enjoyment. By our effort, we cannot. It's not possible. But when Krishna, he comes and sit, because he is Rishikesha, he is the master of the senses. So when he comes and sit in our heart, he can destroy all the sense enjoyment desires. He can destroy all those desires very easily. By our endeavor, by our this thing, it is not at all possible. But Krishna, he can easily destroy all these desires. So I think we are good for today. Anyone has any question or anything to ask, please feel free to ask or share. Yes, any questions? Okay. So, Chen, is any questions?
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, what I learned here is that once a life starts with Brahm Jigyasa, then it moves somewhere between the sense gratification to restriction or easing senses, and then moves to the controlling of mind, and then advancement to Krishna consciousness. Is this true?
The thing is, not like a life starts from Brahma Jigyasa. Actually, if we see, even a person who is not practicing anything, each one of our life is full of sense enjoyment. Day and night we are working to satisfy our senses. Right? Now, after satisfying our senses, we see there is no end. One gets frustrated, and that rare soul who gets frustrated, now he want to find the solution. What is the solution? How I can satisfy my senses? I'm not able to satisfy these senses. So what is the solution? So from there he starts Brahma Jigyasa, Athato Brahma Jigyasa. Now therefore you should inquire. And what is that Brahma Jigyasa? Who am I? All these things he start inquiring. After inquiring all these questions, he starts understanding. He take up the process to understand all these things in detail. And when he understands these things, he starts practicing Bhakti Yoga. And when he starts practicing Bhakti Yoga, further he makes spiritual advancement in his life. And like that, he becomes Krishna consciousness. So hope it is clear.
Hare Krishna, correct. Thank you, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes. Any other question? Okay. So we'll end here. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki
Jai.
Devki.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, bro.
Hare
Krishna.